Welcome back to the Bill and Doug Show. Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis. Should Ohio State be the number one team in the country going into 2026? That is the question we are hitting today, Bill. Yes or no?
Maybe.
Oh, tantalizing. I think maybe is the right answer. We were just talking about this. I think there's a lot to look at with the way the sport is perceived, comparing new coaches, quarterback situations, who's hitting the transfer portal, who's relying on recruits, that we can look at the entire sport, because on the Bill and Doug Show, we want to continue to analyze the entire sport from a Big Ten perspective, from a Northern perspective, from a national perspective. This is about Ohio State. I looked at 7, God, find something in your life the way that college football media loves way too early top 25 rankings. My
that content,
goodness.
baby.
Now,
I saw On3 put out like its top 100 players for 2026. Like, can we take a breath?
Yeah.
The season just ended.
And it's not so like there's 2 different things I think at play here. One is anything like this educated, right? And it's like that's not the point, I don't think. So actually, like a top 100 player list, I think is like, oh, Jeremiah Smith's one. Oh, great. Congratulations. You can put a Jeremiah Smith photo at the top of your story. But consensus matters. Perception matters. How people are viewing the sport matters. And so I looked at 7. I looked at CBS Sports, On3, The Athletic, USA Today, Yahoo, PFF, and ESPN. Of those 7, have you perused these? Have you taken these in?
No, the only one I saw was the On3 one.
Okay. Out of those 7, and there are others, but I ran out. I couldn't do anymore. Do you want to do the Bill and Doug one real quick? We gotta get out there.
I was going to ask you if we should do our own top 25. I think we prefer ours to be more educated, though, right? Like,
yeah,
we'll give you our top 25 in June.
Like, yeah,
to handle all these rosters.
The appropriately early top 25, right? Not the way too early. How many of these 7 have Ohio State number 1?
4.
2.
Okay.
Who are the other teams that are ranked number 1 in at least one of these 7 polls? I will tell you there are 3 more teams who are ranked number 1 by somebody that matters. Oregon is first in 3 of them.
Okay. Texas.
One of them.
Georgia.
Indiana. So I don't know
that.
I don't know if that was like you got to beat the champ to be the champ kind of thing, which is fine, I guess. I mean, if it was anybody else, I guess you could do it. It was ESPN, actually, Mark Schlabach, who just like pops out of his groundhog hole every January to rank the top 25, and then I don't know what he writes the rest of the year. But anyway, great gig. No offense to that guy. I'd take that in a second. Do you want to know something in common of all 7 teams? No, excuse me. All 4 teams that are getting a first place nomination from one of these 7 polls. What do they have in common, Bill?
Actually, I don't know. They're not, I don't know. What is it?
They either are Ohio State or Ohio State is playing them. So
I was going to say they're not on the SEC. I forgot Texas was in the SEC,
But it's like, who's Ohio State playing next year? It's like, well, they're playing everybody. Like, we're going to figure it out, right? So this is one of those, and this is one of those again. I think so. ESPN had Ohio State 6. That's the lowest anybody had them in running through everything. Please direct your comments to Ombudsman ESPN at crammingupyourcramhole.net. Ohio State, CBS Sports, and On3 had them first. The Athletic and USA Today had them second. Yahoo and PFF had him 4th, and ESPN had him 6th. And I just was skimming some stuff. It seemed to be that, like, the fact that Ohio State plays a tough schedule, that it plays at Indiana, that it plays at Texas, that it gets Oregon at home, that it plays USC, that it plays Illinois, that it plays Michigan. Like, it's one of those that, like, are you just ranking talent, experience, coaching, or are you trying to like half play the schedule game in your head and like, well, I think this team's good, but I don't know by the end of the year where will they be ranked because I think they might have a couple losses. I don't know how people do these things, but that I do get a little bit because but again, a year ago, Ohio State had 2 of the 4 semifinals. Ohio State was the national champion, had 2 of the 4 two of the other three semifinalists on their schedule in Texas and Penn State, and that kind of turned out like not to be what you thought exactly. Now, national champion, a semifinalist, and a team that's getting some number one votes in Texas on the schedule. So we'll see if that turns out to be true. But at first blush, it's a banger slate for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, it is, which is like people must not be playing the schedule game, at least not the ones who are putting Ohio State first. And I'm not saying that like Ohio State isn't capable of winning those games, but I think if you're doing a way too early preseason top 25, you should probably like take a glance at the schedule. Like how many of the people that put Ohio State one know what you just said? Maybe not many of them, because I just don't think there would be that strong of a coalition with having Ohio State number one if they actually took the time to look at what the Buckeyes have in front of them, because it's not just those three teams, right? Like we know what the schedule looks like, and we'll get the schedule in its entirety and like all the dates and stuff like that next Tuesday night. But it's a heck of a schedule. Like Ohio State fans, I think, are a little worried about what the schedule could be, and wondering if like maybe there's a 9-3 coming down the pike because of how difficult the schedule might be. But it doesn't seem like nationally anybody's thinking that, which is interesting to me, because I thought for sure there would be, and it doesn't. Maybe that sentiment will start to grow in the offseason when people start looking into things a little closer. But I really thought we were staring down an offseason of people projecting Ohio State to fall off a little bit. And when I saw, because I think On Threes was the first that they had Ohio State number one, I was actually kind of shocked by that.
Yeah. I think I might have to recuse myself anytime the phrase 9-3 Ohio State comes up on any show between now and September. And I don't really know what recuse means. I guess it means I have to get up and walk away from the show until you finish your point on that. I mean, it is like, so I just would like to say for the record, like I am not engaging in 9-3 Ohio State content because, not wrong, just early. 7 years early on that discussion. But when you look at at USC, Illinois coming in, of course, like I think people think with Bryce Underwood back, with Kyle Whittingham, again, if your coach isn't in jail, you probably have a better chance to be competitive. Like people think Michigan might be pretty decent. Can I ask you a question? That's a little bit of a side question, but I actually have no idea what the answer is to this. Who is going to be Iowa's quarterback?
Did they add one?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know who's in the pipeline at Iowa. Mark Gronowski's done, right? I don't know.
Hank Brown, I think, is in the pipeline.
The Auburn guy, yeah. They brought him in last year. Yeah, okay.
I think they brought in two last year to be like the backup to Gronowski, but I'm looking to see. It's actually a great question. I'm looking to see if they added a quarterback.
Competitive. Iowa Hawkeyes, competitive team. So, because there is a point that I think will be a larger show, or shows over the course of the offseason, and it's this point. When we were going into 2025, I was very enamored with who are the teams that have veteran starting quarterbacks, because remember we were talking about Ohio State first-year starter with Julian Sayin, Notre Dame first-year starter with C.J. Carr, Alabama first-year starter with Ty Simpson, Georgia first-year starter with Gunnar Stockton, Dante Moore kind of a half-year starter with what he had done at UCLA for Oregon, and then you started going around and saying like, well, who are the good teams with veteran guys? And I zeroed in on, a lot of people zeroed in on Drew Aller at Penn State, third-year starting quarterback. Cade Klubnik at Clemson, third-year starting quarterback. Wrong and wrong. But we got a national title game with two old quarterbacks. So like that, and then like Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, they had a young guy in Austin Simmons who people were excited about. Then he got hurt, and Trinidad Chambliss, who had played 1 million snaps at Ferris State, winds up being the guy, right? And so I think we did see that veteran quarterback play, and it's a lot of like the discussion we had around Julian Sayin at the end of the year. We're like, well, no, Fernando Mendoza did this. He's done it before. Carson Beck, for everything he's not, he's experienced, he's old. He had done it before. And so there are, I just was allowing you to research. If you want to interject with it, if you've come to an Iowa solution.
So I'm looking at,
I have no idea.
I'm looking at the projected depth chart from the Hawkeye Insider. That's the 24/7 Iowa site. They have Jeremy Heklinski as the projected starter. So he was the other transfer they brought in. He's from Wake Forest. And I don't even know if he's still on the staff or not, but former Wake Forest offensive coordinator Warren Ruggiero is on Iowa's staff as like an analyst. And I think he kind of like brought Hicklinski with him. So it's either going to be Hicklinski or Hank Brown.
That long mesh? That's long mesh, right?
Slow mesh. The slow mesh, baby.
Slow mesh. Oh, yeah. Slow mesh. Take it easy. Slow mesh. Here are the teams that got at least a first place vote, right? Oh, no. I just looked at the top fives. There were 8 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8 teams that were in the top 5 for these 7 different rankings. We already covered the teams that got first place votes: Texas, Ohio State, Indiana, and Oregon. You also mentioned Georgia. Do you want to try to guess the other 3 teams that appeared in the top 5 of the 7 that I chose to look at?
Sure. Ole Miss?
No.
LSU?
No.
Okay.
You know what?
Texas
everybody knows they're mid now. Everybody's out on SEC projections. Texas Tech appeared once.
Okay. Texas Tech. I don't know. Are there other SEC teams?
Nope, because the SEC is mid and dead.
I don't know. Who are the other 2?
Miami got 1.
Okay.
Notre Dame got 4.
Oh, yeah, Notre Dame.
So
Notre Dame's going to join a conference because I forget about them too much.
I know.
As I'm running through the conferences.
So the 7
I'm actually surprised
that
Notre Dame didn't get a 1. I thought maybe they could get a. I think you could put a 1 if you wanted to.
Yeah, I think I got a. Notre Dame is very interesting because I just saw a headline. There's so many great people who cover Notre Dame. I just saw a Notre Dame headline that was Notre Dame and the idea of, did they go more potential than production in the portal, right? And so that is it is so fascinating to me because it's all about fitting your roster together however it happens. And so Ohio State, with all the guys that we've talked about, Edric Houston coming up and Devin Sanchez coming up and Riley Pettijohn coming up and Bo Jackson being a second-year guy. And they have potential. They needed to add production. Notre Dame, I think, has still has some guys coming back. Mm-hmm. But for them to have Quincy Porter, that's potential, right? I think and some other things. I think it's you're trying to get the same math, but it's just what do you have affects what you need to add. And so Notre Dame, I think, was in a similar situation with Ohio State, a little bit of a slow start in the portal, then got going at the end. But they, I think, went for some more upside plays. So I have not studied how Notre Dame's roster fits together. I will be curious to do so. But here's the point. So a year ago, you remember, did we not? And maybe we spent too much time on it, but we talked a lot about experienced quarterbacks versus inexperienced quarterbacks for national championship contenders last offseason. That was one of the main things we talked about, wasn't it?
We sure did. Yeah. We spent a lot of time on it. Yeah.
Is that a real conversation in your mind or not?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Considering who the 2 quarterbacks who just played in the national title game and the 2 that played in the title game last year. Yeah.
Okay. So let's run through the starting quarterbacks for these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 8 teams that are in the top 5 for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. It's 8 teams. Ready? Starting quarterbacks. Texas, Arch Manning, second-year starter, fourth-year guy, been around forever, right? Everyone knows Arch.
Famous. He's very famous. Yep.
Ohio State, Julian Sayin, second-year starter. And how would you characterize the difference between expectations, just real chance to elevate? How are you thinking about Julian Sayin going into 2026 versus how you were thinking about Julian Sayin going into 2025?
I don't. So he's part of a lineage of guys who popped in their kind of redshirt freshman second year season. So the expectations were pretty high, and he kind of lived up to it for the most part, right? He was a Heisman Trophy finalist, but I don't think anyone ever thought to themselves, Julian Sayin's going to be the best quarterback in the country in his first year starting. And my expectation for him would be to elevate to something close to that, if not be that guy in 2026.
Arch Manning and Julian Sayin, that we're getting this 2 years in a row, not just Texas, Ohio State, but Sayin versus Arch. Mm-hmm. And that a year ago, it was man, Sayin versus Arch, here we go. And then the story of that game was, Arch kind of got confused. He threw a pick that Jermaine Matthews made a great play on. They kind of had to go in at halftime and rub his head and sing him songs and make him feel better about himself. And then they came out in the second half and said, "You're allowed to run, Arch. Try to run a little bit." And Matt Patricia was like, "I'm from the NFL. I'm going to murder you." And then and then Arch's season ended. And the story for Julian Sand was, don't do too much. It's all good.
Yeah.
Don't do too much. We got Arvell here. Look at this Arvell guy. And what this Texas-Ohio State game is going to be, they're both going to be 40 for 60 for 500 yards passing, aren't they?
I think their teams hope they will. It will be. It'll be Julian Sain up against a new coordinator though. Will Muschamp will be the one trying to.
What's happening?
Yeah.
What? Because they fired. You liked Pete Kwiatkowski, right?
Yeah,
and
I did. Yeah.
Whacked.
He got sent off because of the season they had this year. Will Muschamp is their DC,
Will Muschamp. Can't wait. Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, second-year starter. Right?
Mm-hmm. And he's 39, right?
He's 39. And his head is as hard as a bowling ball. So like Gunnar Stockton.
He's actually 21. He just looks 39.
Indiana, Josh Hoover, transfer from TCU, will be a fourth-year starter. Old.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon, Dante Moore, back. And I have Dylan Raiola just hanging out, playing tiddlywinks in the locker room. But Dante Moore is there, so this will be he'll be like a 2.5-year starter, right? He started all of this year. He started a little bit before as a true freshman at UCLA, so experienced. CJ Carr, Notre Dame, exact same thing. Same thing as Julian Sand, same thing as Gunnar Stockton, was an inexperienced dude with a lot of potential. We always have liked CJ Carr, but I think you could see like what Notre Dame did, and he put up some decent numbers. And it's not like Notre Dame was getting shut out in its first two games, but like they lost their first two games as the first two games CJ Carr ever started, and then it buried them, and they didn't get out from under it. But now CJ Carr adding some talent, right? Losing Jeremiah Love, huge deal. But like CJ Carr going to be in a very different place, right? Experienced.
Yeah, very experienced. Yeah. Well, yeah, experienced. Yeah.
Texas Tech, Brendan Sorsby, making $5 million or whatever it is, will be a fourth-year starter because he started a year at Indiana and he started 2 years at Cincinnati. Now he's going to Texas Tech, like Brendan Sorsby, super old. And then Miami is trying to, in the dark of night, go in and steal Darian Mensah from Duke, but they're going to get somebody. I guess I don't know who's left, but if they don't get Darian Mensah,
I don't know who they're going to get. And the Darian Mensah thing doesn't seem like a slam dunk, right?
Okay. What are they going to do? I don't care.
I'm looking to see if they're actually uncommitted quarterbacks because I don't even know. Have they signed high school quarterbacks? Do they care to sign high school quarterbacks?
I don't think so. I don't know.
So yeah, like someone named Walker Eggett, who's a transfer from San Jose State, is the first quarterback I found other than Darian Mensah who is not already committed somewhere. Parker Navarro from Ohio.
Oh yeah, Parker Navarro. Okay, maybe it'll be Parker Navarro. Okay. So Miami's a little bit, but like the point is they're trying to get a veteran guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Darian Mensah, starter at Tulane, got $4 million to go to Duke this year, now trying to go to Miami. They also could, I think Carson Beck's son is still unsigned. They could get him. I think he's a high school senior. Carson Beck. So nice. Isn't it nice? And then you look at, I mean, again, just like if Trinidad Chambliss gets his eligibility and can stay at Ole Miss, LSU added Sam Levitt from Arizona State. He's an experienced guy. We've already run through the fact that Washington has Damon Williams and USC has Jade Maeva. They're experienced guys. Bryce Underwood at Michigan's going to be a second-year guy instead of a true freshman. Like, there are everybody. So everything that Ohio State and Notre Dame and Georgia and programs like that went through this year, maybe taking some lumps along the way, not being sure exactly how to evaluate guys. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure there's going to be, and this is first blush, this is an Ohio State show. We'll do a deeper national quarterback show. But like right now, I don't know if there's anybody that matters who's going to be playing a first-year starting quarterback.
I was just trying to rack my brain. Is anybody going to be playing a new guy or a new young guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy. It's a little cyclical, I guess, obviously, but yeah, I think there's a lot syncing up here for this to be a pretty experienced quarterback season. It looks like,
but it's just like it's the new reality of. So what's cyclical is like those blue blood teams who are choosing for their plan to be bring in high school quarterbacks with a big pedigree, develop them, play them when they're young. And that cycle, we knew that cycle was everybody was on the new guy last year, as we just covered. Now all those same guys, Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, Gunnar Stockton, Dante Moore, CJ Carr, Bryce Underwood, all those guys are not going to be first-year starters. And then everybody else is just filling in with the portal. So Indiana in the old days would have been like, man, they're losing the Heisman Trophy winner. What are they going to do? And it's like they're getting Josh Hoover's played a gazillion snaps. Josh Hoover is like going to be like the most experienced quarterback in college football, a winner, right? Josh Hoover's kind of a big time guy. He won't be as good as Fernando Mendoza, but they're not going to take like a huge step back there. Brendan Sorsby, they're going to elevate at Texas Tech. Baron Morton, I don't know. It's like, well, we lost this Baron Morton guy. He was around forever. It's like, oh, we just went and paid $1 gazillion for Brendan Sorsby. So I just don't. There will be some of the teams that cycle through. That again, if Julian Sayin finishes this season as Ohio State's quarterback and goes on to the NFL, and then Tavian St. Clair sticks around, then going into 2027, it's gonna be like Tavian St. Clair. He's a third-year guy, but he hasn't really played. It's a new guy that like Ohio State's gonna stay on that. Right, Georgia, if Ryan Puglisi is the next guy up and Gunnar Stockton leaves, like they'll still be on that. I don't even know who the next Texas quarterback is.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either.
But we were on a cycle this year that we are on a completely different cycle in 2026.
I think it's Diabell.
Oh, that's right. Roger Bell.
Same deal. He'd be a young guy.
Yeah. But the point is, I think as we evaluate Ohio State, we believe that Julian Sayin not being a first-year starter, not doing everything for the first time is valuable for the Buckeyes. And it just so happens like that's not really going to be an edge for them, but it's just going to be they're going to be keeping pace with everybody else like that. Where in 2025, if you looked at, Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin in the Big Ten championship game, Fernando Mendoza wasn't perfect, but it's an old guy versus a young guy. And so at the very least, Ohio State won't be at that. I don't even know if disadvantage is the right word, but they're going to be, they'll be more experienced at quarterback, except everybody is. Everybody that matters is going to be in that same boat, which if Ohio State wasn't, then we'd be staring at this going like, oh my God, Tavian St. Clair is going to be going out there trying to figure out like how to do this. And everybody else is going to have a quarterback who's been through the ringer before. So anyway, I think it's an interesting way to view Sayin that it's almost like a must the way this cycle is, as opposed to an advantage. At least they're keeping up.
Yeah, we did talk a lot about the veteran quarterbacks coming into this past season, last off season, but I don't think we were discussing it kind of in the terms of it being a disadvantage for Ohio State that they were starting a young guy, just because they had so much success previous doing that. And I think we talked about like Bryce Young winning when he was young, and Trevor Lawrence obviously winning when he was young, and just maybe not buying into the idea that like you can't win with a young quarterback anymore. And I don't know that we're all the way there, but we're certainly further down that road now that we've just seen what happened again this year with veteran quarterbacks on veteran teams competing for the national title. So like, yeah, if we were coming off of this season, if everything else leading up to it was the same, but Ohio State had a first-time starter, I would feel very differently about it now than I did last year coming into the year when we knew Sayin was going to be a new starter.
Yeah, I just think it's something. It doesn't mean that, and here it doesn't mean that guys can't succeed, because Julian Sayin succeeded, Gunnar Stockton succeeded.
Sure, yeah.
Like Ty Simpson at Alabama in a way succeeded. CJ Carr, by the end of the year, he's like, if Notre Dame would have gotten in, they would have had a chance to win the national title. Succeeded, but you have to take at least a few lumps, I think, and then even in this world with greater parity, even a couple lumps turn into bumps. And when the lumps turn into bumps, one bad drive, one bad play, one bad game, it doesn't kill you, right? The way it did in the old days. But like there's more people, more teams who can take advantage of your mistakes. And so you wouldn't look at, I mean, maybe Ohio State more than it's like, if we're going through, it's like, okay, Gunnar Stockton and Georgia. Is Gunnar Stockton the reason that Georgia didn't win the national title this year? It's like, no, actually Gunnar Stockton was saving them half the time. If Gunnar Stockton wasn't good in clutch moments, Georgia might have gone 8-4, right? So it's not that. And like Alabama and Ty Simpson. This Ty Simpson, is a fourth-year guy, but a first-year starter. Is he the reason Alabama was mid and dead? It's like, no, it's actually Kalen DeBoer's fault because he's a bad fit there, and there's a million other things going wrong. But Ty Simpson early in the year when people like Bama, Ty Simpson was like keeping them going, right? So,
yeah.
But I still do think it matters, and it is something that I think we will continue to monitor. So we'll do more quarterback discussion. I don't want to get this is not the full encapsulation, but we wanted to put Julian saying in context. The rest of this, and this is one of these things where we know Ohio State inside and out. More importantly, this audience knows Ohio State inside and out. And I think when you know a team, if you are honest with yourself and if you are pragmatic, what you do is the more you know about something, the more you find the holes. Very seldom is it like, man, I know everything about this team, and my conclusion is they're awesome. Whoop. But from afar, what you know from other teams is their best players. You remember their highlights. You remember their great wins. But do you know that we're sitting here and saying I don't know, Georgia's right side of the offensive line in 2026. I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't know the answer to that question right now.
Right.
So, but as people who know the Ohio State roster, know the Ohio State strategy, know the Ohio State coaches, does it make sense to you that Ohio State is viewed this way nationally as one of the top 5, top 3, the favorite, the perceived favorite? And I think by the betting odds, when they came out right after the game, I think Ohio State and Indiana were co-favorites to win the national title, at plus 700, the first ones that I saw at least. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, they are. I'm looking at FanDuel. Actually, Ohio State and Notre Dame are the co-favorites.
Ooh,
at plus 650.
Plus 650. Okay.
Followed by Texas and Indiana at plus 700.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me. I guess I understand how people would get there rather quickly. And frankly, for a lot of them, I do think it's as simple as Julian Saints back, Jeremiah Smith's back. I don't care about the rest of it. And I think you can do that because those are two, I don't know. I think national perception anyway, 2 of the top 15 players in the sport next year, right? And Sain and Jeremiah Smith, if not something better than that. And even if you wanted to look at it a little deeper, because I think people, you've said this before, right? You sort of go quarterback line of scrimmage. Ohio State's basically bringing back its entire starting offensive line. It's bringing back 1,000-yard running back. They're just the returning production on the offensive side, minus Carnell Tate, is pretty strong. If you wanted to look into it, that deep. And then I think the things that would give you pause are all the losses they have on defense. But that was the same thing that gave people pause last year, and then they came back and arguably were a little better on defense, right? So I think there's some benefit of the doubt that's in there too. So the floor of where Ohio State can be in any early top 25 is probably 5 or 6. But when you factor in returning quarterback, returning megastar, receiver, and just sort of the natural assumptions you make about Ohio State year over year, I can see how they got there, but like I said, I still am pretty surprised that they're number 1 as often as they have been because of the Texas factor, and Oregon is clearly loading up to go chase a national title. Notre Dame has a ton back. There are teams with more back. I think it's top to bottom than Ohio State has. So
a year ago, I found 3 from last year at this time. Ohio State in those way early rankings were 2nd, 3rd, and 2nd. And Texas was 1st in all of them. And that was in a world where they just were losing everybody from their national championship team. So again, we had a conversation on our Substack show on Wednesday. And if you're watching this and you're listening to this and you'd like a little more Bill and Doug, we have a Substack, Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com. Bill just put up a re-projected depth chart. We're talking a lot about roster building. We're doing 2 extra shows a week over there most of the time. Sometimes it's 1. It'll be 2 this week. We did a big 2.5-hour Wednesday show doing our final ranking of the top 22 Buckeyes for this season, then talking about the 2024 Ohio State roster versus the 2025 roster versus the 2026 roster. And we did watch you, and we would invite you to join us over there, Bill and Doug OSU.substack.com. Nominal fee. They lost everybody for the national championship team, and the way too early rankings were like, second. So it is one of those. There's sort of with our Substack group, a reevaluation of like, wait, was actually 2026 the year, and 2025 was the reset, but then we got too excited because they were 12-0, and so actually, and it's like, no, like the answer is Ohio State in any kind of way too early? Until further notice, they're just going to be in the top 5.
Yeah, it's
like,
sort of just like
justifiably.
Yeah, I think so. And it's like, was 2026 the year, and 2020? It's like, it's always the year.
It's always the year.
It's always like on some level with a place like Ohio State, a place like Georgia, until further notice anyway. It's kind of always the year. So there's a lot of that absolutely baked into these top 25s, but I don't think like people doing these top 25s are going like, well, how did James Smith and Quay Rousseau fit into Ohio State's defensive plan, right? And like scheme. But I do think Ohio State has helped. Like the incoming transfer class was rated pretty highly because guys like Smith and Rousseau were like very highly rated high school players, and that can carry over. So like a cursory glance of that, it's like, oh, Ohio State loses a lot, but they have the number 4 transfer class coming in. That's pretty good. I'm not going to dock them all that much. I'm not going to think much about how those pieces fit together. I'm just going to look at that number and not rank them very low. And then that's like, I don't say any of this to say like these preseason projections are going to be proven wrong in the long run. Ohio State absolutely can win a national title next year and be the best team in the sport. But I do think there's not a whole lot of sophistication to these things. I believe, like, and because if there were, I really don't think Ohio State would be one based off of some of the changes that are happening with the roster.
The thing, they got some hole patchers, and I do think that is, they got some good hole patchers that if you are nationally, if you're really dug in nationally, if you're the best of the best nationally, and you're really smart and you really have a good handle on the 20 best teams in the country, what would be your greatest concern about Ohio State?
Probably defensive line. Is it championship material, or is it like merely good?
Yeah. And I think, but then that's where John Walker and James Smith and Quay Rousseau like help alleviate some of that stuff. Getting Kenyatta Jackson to stay for another year like helps alleviate some of that stuff. And I do think, again, generally speaking, you say, how are they going to replace Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Caleb Downs and Caden McDonald? That's 4 first-round draft picks on their defense. How are they going to replace them? And it's like, well, they're not, but they don't have gaping holes there anymore because Terry Moore is here and John Walker is here and Christian Allegro is here and Riley Pettijohn's moving up and that kind of thing. Did you see Mel Kiper's latest? I don't know. Does Mel Kiper still know about ball, or is he just?
I don't know if Kiper has the juice anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if he does either. Did you see who he has number 2 now in his draft on the latest Mel Kiper draft? Number 1, Fernando Mendoza.
Is Arvell Reese?
Arvell Reese to the Jets. I think he had Arvell 2, Cornell Tate 5, and Caleb Downs 10. So it's like, okay,
not bad. They had some talent on defense.
Yeah,
turns out. Yeah,
I do think the best way to podcast is to mock somebody for doing something and then use the thing that they're mocking them for. So I did just glance at the on 300 best players, whether it was pulled out of some guy's armpit or not. Jeremiah Smith is one. Do you want to guess where Julian Sand is, or have you perused it?
I just saw that Jeremiah. I saw the graphic that had the top 10, and Julian wasn't on it.
Okay.
I don't know, is Julian like 13th?
12th.
Okay.
How many more Buckeyes on it beyond those 2? Top 100.
2.
That is correct. Who are they and where are they?
Bo Jackson, I would imagine, is like in the 60s or something.
41.
Okay. And Austin Saraveld, like toward the back of the list.
42.
Oh, higher than I thought for both of them. Okay.
So there you are. But again, like if you're doing this a year ago, it'd be like Jeremiah Smith. Like everybody thinks like everyone's list. I think a year ago is like who are the two best players in the country? Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs. They're the top two, and it's like I don't know that was wrong. And that's one of those things. Like I think we on our top 22 Buckeyes, I think there was maybe just a tiny bit of discussion of like where we put Julian Sayin on that list, and he's a Heisman finalist, and he's not like he's one of the top 4 players in the country by the Heisman voting, and he's not even one of the top 4 players on Ohio State. And it's like, well, we're realistic about the way the Heisman works and that you're representing, but it's like, and then people say, well, if you really think Caleb Downs is better than Julian Sayin, why didn't you vote for Caleb Downs for the Heisman? And it's like, because we live in the world. I don't know. Maybe the world will change someday. Hasn't changed to that extent yet. But
I did think about it.
No, and it's like it wouldn't be wrong.
And some people did.
And some people did.
I honestly had a little bit of regret about it. Not like after the fact, like not voting for him.
Not having Caleb Downs like be, for lack of a better word, the Ohio State representative.
Yes.
Because he's also actually the best player and also actually is incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
And also kind of would have been cool to see Caleb Downs walking around New York.
Yeah.
All those reasons. Why didn't you do it? Why didn't you do it?
I always have regret over my Heisman vote.
No, I know if honestly, if you're there's going to be a Heisman ballot some year where you go safety, punter, center as your top 3, right? Like that day is coming, and they'll write a book about it. I think the bottom line here is we try to think about perception as we think about consensus around college football. I think everybody is correctly is, smartly is. I don't know that anyone's hanging on, like more open to more teams. And it's a thing we talked about on a show recently. Wouldn't it be great if the preseason 8 people, there were 11 different teams getting number 1 votes? That I don't know that we'll get to that point, but it would be wonderful if we did. But you've got to be looking. You've got to be smart about looking for teams that are not blue bloods, teams that can come up from off the radar. Doesn't mean that they're projected to be the 50th best team in the country right now, but like you could look at the team that's number 17 in everyone's way too early rankings and be like, people are wrong about this. I'm looking at their experience. I'm looking at their staff. I'm looking at their schedule, and like I'm not bogged down in recruiting rankings. And I got to tell you, like this team is going to be much better than people realize. And so everyone's going to do that, and it would be great if we all find our own versions of that. And then we can play like who's your team, because it's not even like a dark horse anymore. It's just a real, like somebody's going to be that. Like a dark horse is going to do something, which makes it not a dark horse. So it's just like find that team. But while we're still in that, we're still enough in an era where we don't have complete parity, where I think probably, Ohio State, who's not in here is Alabama. Alabama is nowhere to be found in these top 5s. I don't know how far you had to go to look for Alabama because I'm in an Alabama free zone. I crammed it too hard during the season. I need a break. Being this correct, it takes a lot out of me. So Bama, I wasn't looking to find out, is Bama 11? Is Bama 16? I don't care. They're mid. But like Ohio State's going to be here. Oregon's going to be here. Texas is going to be here. Georgia's going to be here. Notre Dame's going to be here. Right. I don't know. Like, so if Clemson's fallen out, will Penn State get back into this mix? Will Alabama get back in? Is Lane Kiffin's LSU going to rise up? Like, will Indiana have staying power here? I don't know. Will Miami? I don't know. But I do think, are those the 5 bluest sure thing blue bloods right now? Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And then if you want to put Indiana in there because they've made the last 2 playoffs and just went 16-0 and they have a football monster as the head coach, like great. I would not dispute Indiana being in that group at all. So maybe those are your 6 best bets.
I think that those 5. I would say that it's perfectly reasonable to give any of those 5. Or Indiana, maybe Texas Tech a first place vote, a first place not a consideration if you were doing this exercise. But the fact that that's like 6.5 that you could really consider to be number one, I think is representative of us being in a pretty different place than we typically are coming into a season.
Yeah. So let me run through it real quick if you guys haven't gone through all these. Yahoo, top 5. Oregon, Texas, Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia. The Athletic, top 5. Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami, Texas. PFF, top 5. Oregon, Texas, Indiana, Ohio State, Texas Tech. ESPN, top 5. Indiana, Texas, Notre Dame, Georgia, Oregon. Ohio State, 6. CBS Sports, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Notre Dame. On 3, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Indiana. And then USA Today, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, Notre Dame. Do you think, if you had to guess, will Texas, Ohio State be 1-2 again?
Oh.
And it's not the opener. It's not the opener this year. It's the second week.
I don't think so. I think maybe no, because the AP just voted Ohio State 5th. So like, which was like bizarre to me. So no, I think Oregon and Texas will probably open the season 1-2 in some order.
So we haven't really talked about that on the show. I really thought Ohio State had a pretty decent chance to end number 3 with your 2 losses to number 1 and number 2. They wound up 5 because Ole Miss and Oregon were 3rd and 4th because they made the semifinals. I found, and it wasn't even close. And I looked through the 66 AP voters, because there's that site, AP Poll Tracker, I think, where you can see where everybody votes. 9 people of the 66 voted Ohio State 3rd. It was 3 of them were the 3 people from Ohio who are the Ohio voters. Stephen Means from Cleveland.com, Dave Briggs from the Toledo Blade, and David Jablonski from Dayton. And then also Reese Davis had Ohio State 3rd. And I think John Wilner, who is a free thinking voter, also had them 3rd. But I was surprised how everybody just took their marching orders from the bracket, and then
weird, right? Yeah.
So it's like Ohio State only made the quarters. Well, they lost to a team in the corners that made the national championship game and played the national championship game down to the final minutes. And, you got to beat everybody. It's not like you feel bad for Ohio State, but they played a good team that happened to be the 10 seed, right? And so you're just going by the bracket. And then it's like, well, Ole Miss played Tulane and Georgia, but they went farther than Ohio State did. So Ole Miss has got to be ahead of Ohio State. It's like, I thought that was just, I don't know if people didn't want to think. Are they scared to think? Did they believe it in their heart that they really said, I'm looking at this. Ole Miss is better than Ohio State. They earned it. I think they beat them head to head, but we're not even doing hypotheticals. Resume, they earned it. I don't know.
No. What would lead you to that conclusion?
Being a honk, troll, and moron. I mean, it's not like, it's just like I hope people thought. And that's the thing. And again, the lowest hanging fruit in America is bashing AP voters. But I almost don't care what your vote is. As long as you think about it, you're not getting paid, but you took the assignment. So try. Think about it and have a reason. And if your reason is, well, they made the semifinals and that's it. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. My only decision is which of the semifinalists should be 3, which should be 4. But I'm just going by that. I just would like to have a discussion with you of why you are beholden to that without doing any thought beyond it.
Yeah. I don't know, because they don't. Well, there's a postseason basketball poll, right? Yeah, and if some low seed comes out of nowhere to make the Final Four, and the number 2 team in the country gets upset in the Elite 8, you're going to put the Cinderella team ahead of them in the final AP poll because they got to the Final Four and the other team didn't. That is just flawed thinking.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I don't think that's what happens. Yeah. So, why are we if you make the argument? God, there's nothing better than making an argument and believing in it. But if you either only spent 15 seconds on it or you spent an hour on it and you were like, well, the bracket told me what to do. And then it's like, then get out of the city. What are we doing here?
Yeah. It seems like the bracket told a lot of people what to do.
The bracket. I don't listen to no bracket. All right. So that's what we think about Ohio State being, in the end, if we were doing, we would put more research into it, which is why we haven't done it yet. But if we were doing the Bill and Doug show way too early, top 25, would we strongly consider Ohio State for number one?
Yeah, I'd consider them. Yeah, I don't think that's ultimately where I would land. But I would consider them along the group of five that we talked about.
Yeah. I don't think we'd end up landing there either. I don't think we'd land on them at 6th.
No.
I don't think we'd land on them at number 1. No research, first blush. Who do you think you might land on for number 1?
Probably Oregon.
I might land on Notre Dame or Oregon.
It's hard because like Oregon's, it's the Penn State situation has me like wary of Oregon. So we're bringing back our whole team. It's like, great, you got your ass kicked in the playoff. so I don't know what to do with that information. So I'm sure people say that too. So I don't know. Like, yeah, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State, I think are probably the 4 that I would consider for 1. I don't think I'd consider Georgia for number 1.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think there's an argument to be made for any of those 4.
So as people may know, you can see my background's different. I'm at my mother's house. My mom just got home. And I was just bringing stuff in to make sure I had everything to do my show. And then I was carrying this in. And I was like, do I need this to do my show? And I was bringing in a tripod. I was bringing in a light. I was bringing in a microphone. And I was like, what is this heavy thing in my hand? And it was a sword. And I just couldn't help myself. So there's a sword lying in my mother's living room. So please be careful.
Sorry. That's called a security system.
That'll do it for this edition of the Bill and Doug Show. Come find us on Substack, BillandDougOSU.substack.com. We're going to keep dropping stuff here on the YouTube feed, on the podcast feed. Like, subscribe, tell a friend. We're going through the offseason. I made a joke the other day. We'll see you in May. We're not going anywhere. We're going to, is it going to be like 6 shows a week, 7 shows a week on this feed? Maybe not. Is it going to be multiple shows a week on this feed? Oh, baby, yeah, it is. So stick with us. We're going to keep covering Ohio State, Big Ten football, national college football, northern college football, and we're so grateful that you guys are along with us for this ride. For now, he's Bill Landis. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and that was the Bill and Doug Show.